Hey everybody, Joe Workman here, and today we're going to be doing a new video series on getting started with foundation. Now, a lot of things in the Wrap Weaver community have changed since I originally did the getting started videos for foundation. We have Wrap Weaver 6, Stacks 3, and Foundation 1.5, and a lot of things have changed. And we have a lot of improvements on how we can actually build websites now with foundation. So I thought I would update the entire thing and do a video series on getting started. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a small website using all the latest stuff and see kind of how we can make something great. So let's get started. So here's the project file that we're going to build from scratch and basically show you how to do it step by step, this entire site. So it's just a simple site that has 3 pages. We'll notice that all 3 pages have the same header and the same, with the exception of the little caption, right? We have the same footer. We have some page content in the middle, okay? And then we have a contact page. So we're going to use Wrap Weaver 6, Stacks 3, and Foundation 1.5 to build out this exact project file. So let's get started. So here we have a completely new and blank Wrap Weaver project file. So let's go ahead and add a new Stacks page, and let's call it Home. Now the next thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we actually have the theme set to be Foundation. So if we go to Themes and make sure that Foundation is selected, that way we can apply this theme to all of our pages. Now let's add some content to our page. So let's go to our Stacks library. And what we're going to do is we're going to add site styles. Now, what site styles is it is a stack that contains all of the settings for throughout your foundation theme. This is all the color settings, your site backgrounds, your text. There's a lot of other advanced options that we're not going to go in this video. But there are videos that review all of the settings in site styles, and I recommend that you look over those. But for most of this video, we're going to accept kind of the default settings for site styles because the default settings will give you a very nice website. So the first bit of content that I want to add to my page is that site banner that contains kind of the header for our website. So I already know the structure for that, and because I've kind of planned it out beforehand, and I'm just going to quickly add the stacks that we need. First, I want a 1-column stack that contains the main background. And then inside of that, I have a inner box that contains more content. And inside there, I have a 2-column stack. And then I have an image. And then on the right-hand side, I have a header and a paragraph. Now, I should add that what I've done in the Stacks library is I've created a folder just for the foundation stacks. And I recommend you do this if you're going to be using Foundation because it's a quick way to access all of your Foundation-based stacks really quickly. So I know I can go to this group and I can quickly access all of the Foundation stacks with a click of a button. Okay, so let's start building out this site header. And on the outer 1-column stack, I'm going to add a background. And it's going to be a background image. And I'm going to click on the styled background for the stacks, and I'm going to drag in my image. If you notice, it's actually added a little bit of tile, and we want to change some of these tile options. So I actually don't want the image to be tiled, and I want the image size to be filled, so it's going to cover the entire background. And that's pretty much what I want. Now, on the inner column, I want it to be a transparent overlay. So what I'm going to add here is I'm going to add a color, and I want it to be white. But I want the background to bleed through a little bit. So I'm going to make that about, let's make it 75%. So that kind of gives me a frosted glass look where the background behind it is actually bleeding through. Now let's go ahead and look at the image. So I'm going to add an image here. And basically in the image settings, I'm just going to drag and drop the image that I want. And let's go ahead and add some content to our title and our paragraph. So as you see, we're getting there, right? We're starting to get something that looks a little bit nicer. Let's tweak this. I think the icon is a little bit large, and I want maybe the instead of having an equal column split, I want to go ahead and make this a little bit smaller for the image column. So inside the two column stack, we're going to go ahead and make the column 1, okay? We're going to make that size of 4. And then column 2 is we're going to make that a size of 8. And what you'll notice with the foundation column stacks is that the sum of all the columns needs to equal 12. So imagine that this page was divided up into 12 equal units, and column 1 is taking up 4 of those, and column 2 is taking up 8 of those units. So that's how we can break things up. And what you'll notice is that on this 2-column stack, we're actually using tablet sizing. So this means on tablet and desktop, it's going to use the 4 by 8. But then if we look at the mobile sizing setup for this 2-column, it's going to use all 12. So if I temporarily turn off tablet sizing, we will see on mobile that the image will take up the entire width, and then the text will also take up the entire width. Now, a quick thing, since we're not really need to see site styles all the time right now, I'm going to go ahead and click on the hide button in the Stacks toolbar so I can hide it. Now we can kind of focus a little bit better on our banner. So I have my 2-column stack, set up nicely in terms of the division between the columns. There's a couple other things. I don't like this text, this header text to be black. And I also, if you'll notice, it is currently set to be an H3. And this is going to be my main page title. So I want to make sure I change that to be a page 1. So it is now H1. And if you notice, it looks different because Site Styles actually styles H1 tags differently than H3 tags. Now also I want to go ahead and make this, instead of the default style, I want to make it the alternate style. So it's going to be white. And I want my paragraph text to also be white. So I'm going to click this paragraph, and I'm going to go ahead and make that the alternate. Now the contrast with the white background is a little bit not enough. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is on this white background, I'm going to go ahead and change that to be 50% opacity. There we go. That makes this white text pop a little bit better. Now let's preview this. Now we'll see that we're getting there, but the spacing with my content is a little bit off. It's not perfect, and I think we can do a little bit better here. Now another quick note: if you don't want to keep flip-flopping back and forth between edit mode and preview mode, you can go ahead and use these stacks view modes. And in Foundation, it uses these as a quick preview, so that you can quickly preview your stacks. And it's not going to be an exact representation in all instances, but in 95% of the case, you're going to see a very close representation of what your site's going to look like in preview mode. Now you can also quickly toggle between these view modes using 1, 2, and 3. So if you quickly see me preview things, you'll see that I'm actually toggling with the number keys on my keyboard using the 1 and 3 keys. So for this main banner image, I'd like the background to kind of have a bunch of padding so that this white box sits inside of it. So if we go to this settings for this stack, let's go ahead and turn the gutter. And the gutter on a 1-column stack is some padding that it adds to the content on the left and the right. And I'm going to completely turn that off. And then we're actually going to go into detailed padding here. And I'm going to go ahead and say padding on the top and bottom, I want it to be 5 rem. And on the left and the right, I'm actually doing a little bit less. I'm going to do 3 rem on the left and the right. And if we quickly preview this, we'll see that I have a nice generous amount of padding around the outside of my box. And that's exactly what I want. Now, on this inner box, though, the content is kind of hugging that box a little bit more. So let's go ahead and add some padding to that. So on this inner 1-column stack, I just want some padding on the top and the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and set that to be 2 rem. So this is really starting to look nice. It's getting really close to what I've kind of originally envisioned. I have my outer box with a nice background, and then my inner box that lets the background bleed through, and then I have some nice padding all the way around it. So now let's examine this banner image to see how it responds. So in preview mode, I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and shrink this down. And it looks really nice on desktop. And as we shrink down, we'll see that, this big gap that I've added around is starting to look a little large when we kind of get to a smaller tablet size. And then when we reach, mobile size, we don't have a lot of room for text, and this padding that I've added just looks very big and out of place. So let's start tweaking some of these things. So the first thing I would like to do is take care of this padding on this background image. And right by default, the show padding is set to always. But what I'm going to set it to be is show desktop plus. And same thing with the horizontal padding. And what that means is on desktops, this padding is going to show, but then on tablet and mobile, it's not. So let's go ahead and preview that again. So as you'll see in desktop mode, we have our nice padding and it's spread out and it looks really nice. But as we contract the page down, we'll notice that when we've reached tablet width, all that padding is gone. Now what's cool is because we have that transparent overlay, it's still bleeding through and we're still getting that really nice effect. And as you see, as we get on mobile, we have a lot more space for our text. Our text looks a lot nicer. It's a little bit more readable. And everything just looks a lot cleaner and more sharp. Now, if we look on mobile, we'll see that the text and the icon here, they're really close to each other. And I may want to add a little bit more spacing to that. And also, I think the text would look great if it were centered. This left align, it just doesn't look great. So let's go ahead and make some of those tweaks. So to add some buffer in between the columns when they break, let's look at this 2-column foundation stack. And what we'll look at is we have row padding and column padding. Now, row padding adds padding to the entire top or bottom of all of the columns. And then the column padding adds the padding to the top of each column. So what I want to do is I want to add a 1 rem padding to the top of each column. Because that way, when it breaks, it's going to have 1 rem at the top of the image, 1 rem at the top of the text, which is going to be in between the image and the text. And then to make everything equal, I'm actually going to add 1 rem to the bottom for row padding. Okay. Now that takes care of our padding. And next, I actually wanted to center this text. So I'm going to go ahead and in the header, I'm going to set that to center. And I can do the same thing for paragraph. So as we see now on mobile, we have a lot nicer spaced. The text is centered. And if we expand that out, we'll see that it's looking much nicer on tablet all the way through mobile and desktop. Now, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to add a little bit of contrast between the banner and our content. And I'm simply going to do that by adding a 1 pixel border to the bottom of this banner stack. So I'm going to go ahead and select my outer column stack. Now I'm actually going to go into quick preview mode. And let's go ahead and just add a 1 pixel border. Let's go ahead and add detailed border. Now I want 1 pixel on the bottom. Okay. Now it defaults, as you'll notice, it has this kind of a darker color. So I'm going to go ahead and just select one of the colors from here. Okay. And let's make it a little bit darker so that it's kind of darker. And maybe we'll tweak the opacity down a little bit so that it's kind of blends in a little bit. So as you see now, I have a definite separation between my banner and my content. And that's just something I wanted as the style. Depending on your taste or your design, you might want to do that or not. Now let's go ahead and start adding some page content below our banner. Now to do that, we actually want to make sure that our content doesn't go full width. And so I'm going to encapsulate all of my content inside of a 1-column foundation stack. And the reason for this is the contents of the foundation column stacks will always respect the site width settings that's inside site styles. So now that I've added the 1-column stack there, let's just go ahead and start throwing in a bunch of content. And that kind of does it. Okay, let's do a quick preview. So if you notice, we have my content. Now, obviously, I have some gap issue here, and maybe we want some gap in between some more space on the bottom of the page. That's really easy to fix. On this one column stack, I'm just going to go ahead and add 3 rem to the top and the bottom. Okay. Now, if you notice, there was a little bit more space between the header and the divider than I cared for. Right? If you notice, there's a lot of space in between that. So I'm actually going to go ahead and on the divider stack, I'm going to say bottom margin only, because that's going to add just the bottom margin. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on this divider stack. Now let's go ahead and add some content to our 3-column stack. And just for simplicity's sake, I'm actually going to add an image stack. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to actually show you how the image stack does some special things for us. Now, what you'll notice with the image stack is that you can actually define 3 separate images, one for mobile, tablet, and desktop. This way, the foundation will actually discover what device your users are on and load an image that is potentially optimized for that device. This way, you can load higher resolution images on desktop and lower resolution images for mobile. Now, if you only define a mobile image, it will actually be used on mobile, tablet, and desktop. And hence, if you define a mobile and a tablet image, the mobile image will be used on mobile, and the tablet image will be used on tablet and desktop. So it goes from mobile on up. Now, for this example, I'm actually going to warehouse images, and I'm going to use a very cool service called Placeit. So I'm going to go ahead and set a warehoused image. And if you notice, I set the text to be mobile. And then on tablet, I'm actually going to go ahead and change the text that's available inside that to be tablet. And then on desktop, I'm going to go ahead and change that to be the text of the image to be desktop. Okay. And let's go ahead and I'm just going to replicate this image to the other columns. Okay. Now let's see this in action in preview. So here we are in preview, and we'll see that I have, I'm in desktop view, and I have 3 images, and it's using the desktop image. Now, once I start going down my device width, we'll notice that right now I've reached tablet width, and all the images had changed to be the tablet image. I'm going to go ahead and shrink that a little bit more. And you'll notice that we are now on mobile, and my 3 images are now mobile. Okay. Now, what you might notice now is that we kind of have a similar issue like we did in our banner, where we don't have any spacing at all in between our 3 columns, and there's no spacing at all at the bottom here. So let's go ahead and start fixing that. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust the 3-column padding just like we did in the previous example with the 2-column in the banner. I'm going to do it a little bit different this time, though. I want 1 rem on the top and 1 rem on the bottom. And then I actually want 1 rem on the bottom of each column. Okay. Now, before I preview this, I actually want to add a little bit more pizzazz to these images. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add an animate stack into here. And what we're going to do is we're going to animate these images in. And the animate stack allows you to, nicely animate stuff onto the page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this animate stack, and the default animation I'm happy with. So let's go ahead and do that. I can go ahead and boom, boom, boom. Okay. And let's go ahead and preview this page. Now, what you'll notice is, if you noticed, these images did quickly fade in and down as we previewed the page. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and actually tweak this a little bit so that it's a little bit more noticeable. I'm actually going to add some delays to these animations. So I'm going to actually delay the first one by 100 milliseconds. And then I'm going to delay the second one to be 500 milliseconds later. So I'm going to do 600 milliseconds. And then that one, I want 500 milliseconds after that one. So I'm going to do 1100 milliseconds. Let's see what this looks like. So as you see, it nicely animated our images in order. So it first animated the first one, 500 milliseconds later animated the second one, and later then it did the third one. That adds a really nice effect to our page that our users will definitely like. Now, the last things we're going to want to add to our page is a menu bar. So we're going to use the top bar menu, which is kind of like the flagship menu with Foundation. And then we're also going to want to add a footer at the very bottom of the page. And I'm actually going to do that with a panel stack. Now let's look at top bar. And top bar, I like the default style. I think we're going to keep it mostly intact. One thing I want to get rid of that site logo. I only want to show the site title, and I don't want to show the site slogan either. So I'm happy with that. I think the default top bar, just removing a couple things, is exactly what I want. So if we do a quick preview on this, we'll see that the top bar looks nice, but we definitely don't want this color. And I think it would look nice if it was actually in sync with the footer color. So maybe we can use like a deep purple from one of these icons. I think that would look nice. And also we have a little bit of padding issue on the panel stack, and we can resolve that pretty easily. So if we go down to the panel stack, look at some of the settings here. We're going to actually turn on remove bottom margin. And then actually on the paragraph stack inside, I want to remove the bottom margin from that as well. And then on the panel stack, I also want to remove the border. So we want no border at all on the panel stack. And let's quick preview that. That footer is very close to the style that I want, right? Now let's look at actually styling the top bar and the footer to kind of keep those colors in sync. And the way that we're going to do that is inside site styles, we're going to use something called Swatches. And I'm going to utilize Swatch 1. So if we go into site styles and look down to our swatches, we'll notice that we can define different colors for a swatch. And I want to change the default color of Swatch 1 to be a color that I've already found and liked. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to top bar, and I'm going to look for the background setting on top bar. And I'm going to set that to use Swatch 1. And what that's going to do is that's actually going to use the two colors from Swatch 1 and set that to be the background and text color for these stacks. And I'm going to go ahead and go all the way down to panel, and I'm going to set the style for the panel to also use Swatch 1. And what you'll notice now is that the color of my text in the panel now match the color of top bar. This is really awesome. Now that I'm kind of using this color, I'm thinking that actually the title here would look really great if I also used that same deep purple. So what I'm going to go ahead is I'm going to go to this header that I have in the banner, and I'm going to set the style here instead of alternate to use Swatch 1. And what we'll see now is that the color of the menu matches the color of my header, which also matches my footer. Now at any time, I can actually go ahead and change the color of my swatch, and it will match everywhere. So for example, I may want to subdue this color just a little bit. So I'm going to go to my swatch, and I want to keep the same color purple, but I actually want to add just a little bit of opacity to it. So let's go ahead and maybe add 85% opacity. That kind of subdues the purple a little bit, and it kind of blends the purple in there a little bit, and of course applies the same exact stylings to my footer. So as we see now, our page is starting to look really sharp, right? All the color settings are kept in sync with site styles. We have nice responsive padding on our banner so that it really looks different on tablet and mobile, but our content still shines, right? Our images, we have different images loading on mobile, tablet, and desktop so that we are optimizing our site for the device that our visitors are using, right? This is really great. Now, there's one last little picky thing that I'd like to change, and it has to do with this banner. I really think that this text would look awesome if it was centered vertically with this icon. Let's go ahead and give that a shot. So in order to accomplish this, essentially what's happening is the column that contains the image is taller than the content that has the text. So there's a feature in all foundation column stacks that allows us to equalize the height of those columns. So inside the Foundation 2 column stack here, I'm going to turn on Equalize. And since I only have the columns in tablet and desktop, I'm only going to equalize these columns on tablet and desktop. Now that's not going to auto-center my content. Now, in order to accomplish this, we're actually going to use a non-foundation stack called Target. Target is a very powerful stacks positioning tool. So we're going to go ahead and add Target to our page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my header and my paragraph text to that. And then inside Target, we're going to set Target to be vertical position centered. Now remember, we only want to vertically at center on tablet and desktop because that's the only time we actually have two columns. So inside the conditions, we're going to say that we only want to actually target the position on tablet and desktop. And that's it. We should be golden. Let's go ahead and preview. So as we see now, my header and text here are centered vertically in my two columns so that they align up perfectly with the image. And that continues through when we go down to tablet. But then when we break down to mobile, we'll see that everything still works exactly as we expected it, where our image and our text take up the entire width. Hey everybody, so we covered a lot of ground in this video, right? I hope you absorbed most of it. We've really touched base upon all the basic building blocks of Foundation. Now, we did a lot more than just build a web page. We actually built a theme. And what we're going to do in the next video is we're actually going to learn how to take what we've built and apply that globally across multiple pages. This is really exciting. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Go ahead and watch it again if you need some help, okay? Or if you didn't quite grasp a lot of things, right? Because we did cover a lot. But we're going to go ahead and keep steamrolling into the next video. So go ahead and watch the next video, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks, everybody. Bye.